The sun was just starting to rise over the coastline when 28-year-old Mark Carter spotted something strange glinting beneath the wet sand. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Dailydose, like, and share this video. A lifelong beachcomber with a sharp eye and big dreams, he bent down to uncover what looked like a piece of gold, shiny, oddly shaped, and partially buried near the tide line. His heart raced. Could it be real? A lost heirloom? A piece of history? He had no idea that picking up that single object would drag him into a mystery involving a missing jeweler, coded messages, a criminal gang, and a discovery so significant it could rewrite history. Mark rushed straight to the local jewelry shop, a place he'd visited many times out of fascination but never expectation. Inside stood Mr. Wilson, the town's aging but respected jeweler, who had a reputation for spotting genuine treasure from a mile away. Mark laid the object on the glass counter with pride, eager to hear that he had struck gold literally. Mr. Wilson raised an eyebrow and retrieved his magnifying lens. Mark leaned in eagerly, but the jeweler held up a hand, signaling him to wait. "What is it?" Mark whispered, trying to contain his excitement. But the old man didn't answer. Instead, he stepped back, his eyes wide, the object frozen in his hand. After a long silence, he muttered, "I've never seen anything like this before, not in person." He looked at Mark gravely. "I need to call a colleague, someone who might know more." Mark agreed, although unease began to creep in. He reached out to take the object back just until the colleague arrived, but Mr. Wilson pulled it away, refusing. "This is too important. I can't let it leave the shop," he said firmly. A small argument ensued. Mark, frustrated and confused, demanded the object back. Eventually, Mr. Wilson offered a compromise. He would take a few photos in the back office and then return the object. Mark reluctantly agreed. But what followed was far stranger. The old jeweler disappeared into the back room and never came back. At first, Mark waited patiently. Then he called out, "Mr. Wilson?" No reply. The shop was silent. Too silent. Nervous. Mark walked around the counter and slowly opened the back office door, only to find it empty. The jeweler was gone. The object was gone. No trace. Mark stood frozen in disbelief. Had he just been robbed? Had something happened to Mr. Wilson? Driven by a mix of panic and disbelief, Mark ran to the nearest police station to report the bizarre event. At first, the officers didn't take him seriously. They shrugged it off as a misunderstanding. But one detective, a keen-eyed man with a nose for strange cases, saw something in Mark's intensity that intrigued him. Together, they launched a quiet investigation. As they began digging into Mr. Wilson's background, something odd emerged. The jeweler, once known for his calm and measured demeanor, had been acting strangely in recent months. Other shopkeepers noticed he'd been jumpy, distracted, constantly looking over his shoulder. Rumors swirled. Was he hiding something? Just when the trail was beginning to go cold, Mark returned to the jewelry shop and found the door ajar. Inside, the place had been ransacked. Broken display cases, overturned shelves, shattered glass. Someone had been searching for something, and they'd torn the place apart to find it. Mark called the detective immediately, and together they discovered something curious. A loose panel in the back wall. Behind it was a hidden compartment. Inside were strange handwritten notes, photographs, and an odd sequence of numbers and letters. A code, and possibly the key to everything. Now, they knew for sure this wasn't just about a misplaced piece of jewelry. Someone else was after that gold object, and they were willing to break in, threaten, maybe worse, to get it. That night, Mark's discovery became something else entirely. A treasure hunt, a coded mystery, a dangerous game. And he was right in the middle of it. The coded note found in the hidden compartment gave Mark and the detective their next lead. While the numbers and letters looked random at first, something about the sequence felt intentional, like a map or a cipher. They scanned the contents of Mr. Wilson's hidden stash, trying to connect the dots. What could be so valuable that it led to a break-in, a disappearance, and a decades-old secret? As the pair dug deeper, more of Mr. Wilson's mysterious past came to light. He wasn't just a jeweler, he was once part of an elite circle of antiquities traders, dealing in rare artifacts with whispered histories. Some pieces, they discovered, were rumored to be cursed. Others were said to lead to greater treasures. One name in particular kept surfacing: a criminal gang operating in the shadows of the black market, known for their obsession with ancient relics. The pieces began falling into place. The gang must have learned about the object Mark found or had been watching Wilson for some time, and now they were getting closer. Mark and the detective traced the object's origin back to where it was found, the beach. They returned to the windswept shoreline, scanning the area again, and that's when they ran into them. 3 figures stood near the dunes, pretending to be beachcombers, but their body language said otherwise. Mark's heart pounded. One of the men stepped forward, his voice low and calm. "We're looking for something," he said, "something you might have picked up recently." The detective reached for his badge, and the standoff began. Tension hung in the air as the detective questioned the group. That's when one of them slipped up. "The code's no good without the rest of the artifact," he muttered. It was an accident, but it was all Mark and the detective needed. The gang was after the object, and they were desperate. Narrowly escaping the confrontation, Mark and the detective retreated, now more convinced than ever that time was running out. Their next move: track down Mr. Wilson. If he was still alive, he held the key. A few sleepless nights and dozens of phone calls later, they got a lead: an abandoned cabin in the outskirts of town. There, huddled in the corner of a dust-covered room, they found him, Mr. Wilson. He looked exhausted, paranoid, but alive, and when he saw Mark and the detective, the relief on his face said everything. The old jeweler finally told the truth. The golden object Mark found wasn't just gold, it was part of something bigger, a multi-piece artifact said to date back centuries, possibly tied to a lost civilization. Each piece held a section of a map, and the object Mark found had triggered a chain reaction. The code they had discovered wasn't just random letters, it was a set of coordinates, pointing to the location of the remaining fragment. Mr. Wilson hadn't run, he'd gone into hiding. He knew the artifact's value, and he knew that others did too, dangerous people. Now, with the gang hot on their trail, the three of them, Mark, the detective, and Mr. Wilson, had one chance to beat them to the treasure. And so began the final race. They followed the code, tracking down clues buried in old records, museum archives, and forgotten vaults. Piece by piece, they recovered the remaining fragments of the artifact. One was hidden inside an old church wall, another was buried beneath a centuries-old statue, and the final piece locked inside a private collection in a city across the country. They worked fast, quietly, carefully, until they had it all. The full artifact was stunning, a golden mosaic etched with ancient symbols, and an embedded gemstone that shimmered unnaturally in the light. Experts would later say it might date back over 1,000 years. But for Mark, it wasn't just about history, it was about the journey, the danger, and the mystery they had unraveled together. They handed the artifact over to the authorities, ensuring it would be protected and studied, not stolen and sold in the shadows. Mr. Wilson's name was cleared, and he was praised for safeguarding history under immense pressure. The detective, once skeptical, had helped crack one of the most unusual cases of his career. As for Mark, the town hailed him as a hero, a curious beachcomber who stumbled upon something far greater than gold. The news ran headlines for weeks. His story went viral. But it changed him. What started as a simple walk on the beach had opened a new door. Mark had uncovered more than a treasure, he'd found purpose, adventure, and maybe even a future in exploration. Today, he still walks that same stretch of sand, not for valuables, but for stories, because now he knows the truth. Sometimes, the smallest things buried beneath the surface can lead to the biggest discoveries.